Hi.
So,
How you guys doing?
great.
Excellent. Lyden, we had a chance to talk a little bit earlier today. Isaac, I hadn't had an opportunity to meet up with you guys. But before we get started, I just kind of want to lay the ground rules with this room is my favorite room here at Alibaba.com because we get to involve you. So I am going to have Isaac and Lyden talk a little bit about what they do and why we're going to be discussing this topic today. But really, I want to leave it in your guys' hands. What questions you want to know about negotiating and building these relationships with suppliers. My name is Abingdon Mullin. I am local here to Las Vegas, and I've been using Alibaba.com since 2006. So it's been quite a long time. I started a watch company, and we're the only Las Vegas watch brand here in the city, here in the city, definitely in the States. And I still use Alibaba.com. My journey with sourcing and with negotiating, had I been in this room, I would have saved myself a lot of headaches and a lot of money. So something as simple as, which I'm sure you guys probably know this already with packaging MOQs. Sometimes it's 1,000 if you're lucky. In my first order, it was 3,000. And if I'm buying watch boxes, but I only have an MOQ of 500 watches and I have an MOQ of 3,000 watch boxes, you can imagine how long it took me to get through those boxes. If I'd known what we're going to talk about today with negotiating, then I probably could have saved myself about 2,500 boxes, right? So, Isaac, why don't we start with you? Tell us a little bit about your relationship with negotiating and with your suppliers.
Yeah, for sure. Hey guys, so I'm Isaac. I'm also known as the sourcing guy on social media. I make content teaching people about manufacturing and product sourcing. I've also been running a product sourcing agency for the last 9 years, where we work with everything from small businesses to Fortune 500 brands and helping them source products from around the world. So do a lot of talking to factories and negotiating.
I do love your reels on Instagram where you're saying, okay, this bag, this product, how much, how many do I have to order? What can we do? Some of the content, if you guys don't follow Isaac on social media, go ahead and you'll learn a lot just from his Instagram. So
I appreciate it. Yeah, I do my best to try like do the live negotiation right there. And like you're talking about MOQs, like that's one of the easiest things. People don't realize they think they walk around the Canton Fair and the MOQ that the factory says is the MOQ, but it's always negotiable.
Always.
Yeah.
Lyden?
Yeah, my name's Lyden. I have been selling on Amazon and e-commerce and building brands for the last 10 years. I co-founded Titan Network, which is a community mastermind for Amazon sellers. Also run a trip to China for Canton Fair in April and October, where I take people to Canton Fair, lead them around the fair, show them what type of questions to ask, how to negotiate, and also got 17 of our own brands, which I oversee the supply chain and predominantly the Chinese manufacturer partnerships.
And Lyden, can you share with the audience what some of those brands are, those 17 brands that you have?
I don't know if I can. No, we've got laundry brands, for example. We've got yoga brands, got sports and outdoors and like prepper, survival brands. So we're in kitchen as well. So if anybody's not been through ASM training, and the joke is always done it, launch a silicon spatula. We do 5 million a year with silicon spatulas. So yeah, we've got a lot of different brands in different marketplaces and different categories. So yeah, seen it all.
Excellent. So if there's anybody in the audience who is looking to start a company with some of these kinds of brands, then Lyden would probably be somebody to want to talk to after this talk. With that, do we have any questions that we want to start off with? Can we get to?
Hi. So I've been working with supplier for about 2 years, and I think we have a pretty good relationship, and business is getting bigger and bigger. How would you go back in and renegotiate a rate, especially when things might be increasing in cost?
Isaac, I'll let you start with that one.
Yeah, for sure. I love this topic because I feel like everyone talks about how to negotiate with your factory when you first reach out on Alibaba, but people forget to talk about the important part of renegotiating. And so I think a lot of that, I think people first off are really worried about hurting the relationship with their factory. But I think that it's, you always should be negotiating with your factory, and they should always know that you have another backup where you're talking to other factories. Because if they know that you're sole source and you're never sending them other quotes from other factories, they know they can kind of take advantage of you, right? That's not what you want. So your first step is going to be going and figuring out, am I overpaying for this product? Am I talking to other factories and based off the exact specifications and the sample, am I getting better price? Right? So that's gonna be your first step. Second step, I'd say, when you're actually negotiating with your factory, is I'd recommend going in and doing almost like a negotiation meeting where you're gonna go and try to negotiate for a few different things. So you can go and say, look, these are my projections. This is how I'm gonna be growing the business. As you've seen, we've 10x the business with you. We think we're gonna 10x it again. What we need to do that is we need to be a partner here. So we're hoping to go and, for new products that we're doing from you, lower the MOQ, or we want to, improve the lead time, or you want to get net 30 or net 60 turns. You want to lower our costing to this amount. All these, what I recommend doing is asking for all of it at once, because then at the very least, you can then negotiate by pulling certain ones away and say, okay, fine, we're going to keep the MOQ the same, and maybe we're not going to do net 60, but we're going to get net 30. And then the idea there is you're going to still walk away with a better overall deal with that factory.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And something that I always do is I negotiate payment terms first. If anyone's listening to what I was speaking about earlier, cash is king, and the cash flow is the biggest hindrance to growing your brand. So I always go after payment terms first, and always show what the future looks like. What is the projections for the next 12 months? Well, I show it before and after. So look, here's my projections. I'm going to make this many sales. I want to give you $2 million. But your payment terms are shit. And so I can only give you $1 million. So if you want the $2 million, I need these payment terms. And then once I've secured those, the most impactful thing, 9 times out of 10, unless you've got a lot of cash in the bank, it is the payment terms. And then what I do is say, okay, cool. So now I'm placing a bigger order, higher MOQ, I want a lower price. So I use that as a sort of niche pin to try and bring that down. But I renegotiate payment terms pricing on every order. Or almost every order. So when I go to China, I'll go and sit down, okay, cool, what's going on with exchange rates? What's going on in the world? How do we bring the price down? I also think it's important not just to try and hammer them down on price, because if you do that, they are going to lower the quality in some way as well, because Chinese factories work roughly on a 10% profit margin, so there's not a lot in there. If you're asking for a 30% reduction to try and cover your tariff, then they're not going to be able to do it. So my favorite question is ask why, right? So why is it expensive? Is it because of the material? Can we change the material to lower the quality of the material without lowering the end product? The quality of the end product. For example, stainless steel. We might be using a certain stainless steel that is good for fittings on a boat, but we're actually selling salt and pepper grinders. It's not going near the sea. It's not getting wet. So we don't necessarily need that anti-rust stainless steel. We can do a lower grade, which will lower the cost of the product. So going to China to be able to do these negotiations face to face and understanding the production line is really key, because in China, they're not very forthcoming with ideas. They're not just going to go, do you know what will make this cheaper? They're not going to do that. You have to go there. You're a product developer and product designer by default, whether you like it or not. You need to go and understand the production line and see where you can make savings, and then economies of scale if they're ordering more real material up front and all those good things.
And a follow-up to this question, can I ask, where in the world is your supplier located? In China? Okay. So you were saying that to have other suppliers that you're talking to, do you recommend having other suppliers in China or in other countries just to see how you can differentiate with your supply chain?
Well, I think that it's always good to diversify your supply chain, especially as I'm seeing over the last 6 months. But not every product is able to be manufactured outside of China. As a lot of other countries, if you are going to move to those countries, they're going to have significantly higher MOQs. And a lot of that comes with the fact that the raw materials might still be coming from China. So you might end up having a longer lead time, a higher MOQ, and the pricing might not even be better. It actually might be more expensive going to other countries. And I think that's the big misconception people have. But with that said, it's still good to try to diversify your supply chain. So from a geopolitical perspective, you are protected. But then there are the exceptions of certain product categories because of the labor costs, because of where the raw materials might come from. You can't get the raw materials out of China. You might see savings.
Yeah, I think we were talking about this earlier. So I have tried to source from a lot of different countries. I've sourced from Bulgaria, UK, USA. UK and USA are my least favourite to work with because we can't negotiate very well with them. Thailand, India, Pakistan, all these different places. But what I found is I always get drawn back to China because nowhere in the world has the infrastructure to produce the price and the quality and the reliability that we do in China. So it's good for certain aspects. We're talking about India and handmade goods and home decors and stuff like that. Great, but 9 times out of 10, China is going to be the best bet. And then I did want to something you said earlier. It's good. And I'll think a bit as I think better.
Sounds good. Who else has a question? Right up in front.
Oh, just while we're waiting for the mic, to the point about negotiating, and Isaac made a very good point, is using other suppliers as leverage. Just by going to Canton Fair, or even before you get to Canton Fair, telling your supplier you're going to Canton Fair automatically puts you in the best foot forward when it comes to negotiating, because they know that you've got access to 20, 30, 100 of their competitors, and they know that you've got access to premium suppliers at Canton Fair that might not be anywhere else. So go to Canton Fair and researching on Alibaba whether they're going to be there, but being there in person automatically puts them on the back foot and you're winning that negotiation.
And also to piggyback on that, for the industry that you are developing a product in, for me, Watch World, this week is the Hong Kong Watch Block Fair. When my suppliers found out last year 2 years ago that I was going, they immediately started emailing me. I even got some gifts sent to me in the mail for Christmas, which was new. So they knew that they were going to need to work to keep my business because I was going to those events. So that is an excellent, excellent tip. Go ahead.
So when you're in the earlier stages and you're going through prototyping, in some businesses work for hire, you pay the prototype fee, you get your prototype, and then you get the work product that went into that prototype. I'm curious, how can you negotiate, like, if you're getting a prototype with stuff data, what you want to have, for instance, like if you decide not to work with one supplier, like how does that work when you're working with overseas?
So, sorry, just so I understand properly, it's if they've created the mold for the product, for example? Or?
Yeah, whether they've created the mold for the product, whether they've created like the patterning, like when you're paying for that prototype and you get that, do you walk away with that or do they?
Yeah. If you pay for it, yeah. So a lot of people ask me about mold costs because they can be quite expensive, right? Depending on what the product is. And if you've got 20 grand mold costs, sometimes, and the key thing that you said earlier about partnerships, that's a key word. You can want to keep dropping that partnership because these Chinese suppliers don't want thousands of clients. They want a few very good ones, right? So partnership is key. But a lot of the time, what you might do is negotiate the mold costs with them. So after I've ordered 150,000 units from you, will you deduct the cost of the mold that I pay up front, or do you want to go halves on the mold and then we own the mold together on this new patented product? But I don't like to do that. I like to pay for the mold myself. So if you move factory, you can go and pick up the mold and there won't be a problem to do that.
A better example would be like CAD designs, like the CAD designs for the wireframes and the mock-ups. I don't know what it is in the manufacturing, but more of the digital product before it actually gets produced.
Like the blueprints, the schematics.
The blueprints, the schematics, thank you. Yep.
Most of the time I would design the product myself and use an external, but sometimes you can leverage the manufacturers. It would just have to be an open conversation. Perhaps they might want you to pay for the work that went into it. I don't know if you've got experience with that.
Yeah, I think it's just about being upfront about it, saying, look, we do want the file, because obviously if they're doing all the work to develop the product, they don't want you to take that file and go and bring it to another factory. But if you tell them upfront, like, look, I'm paying you for development, and that's going to be one thing, and then hopefully work together in the future, right, then it's going to be transparent.
Another question. Right here.
When you start a relationship with a manufacturer or a source, the first thing they ask you is how many of these do you want to buy, And should you be telling them an initial order or even an annual order? Because obviously you're going to buy more. We plan on that to get a good price, the right price.
When I always annualize it. So, like Isaac said, I always go with full projection on an existing cut, or even on when I'm looking at a new one, I go like, here's what my projection is over the next 12 months. And then say, when we talked about negotiating MOQ, here's what I want to order over the next 12 months. Obviously, as a brand new product, I need to test it in the market. I need 500 to start with. MOQs on me 2,000 go, yeah, but you will get them. Maybe I pay an increased premium per unit for those first 500, but if I want to test the market with 500 and it goes well, and you keep your end of the bargain and the product quality is good and it's on time, then this is what the future looks like. So I would leverage, always annualize it. I always do the next 12 months. You can do longer if you want, but then forecasts start to get a bit pulled up sky, right? On year 2, year 3, right? But if you do the next 12 months, that's how I do it.
Yeah, and they're not going to hold you to it necessarily, but that's why it's important to also qualify yourself when you're first talking to the manufacturer. Explain who you are, explain your track record if you have one in some capacity, and then that might give them more trust, being, okay, maybe this person's projections are real.
Yeah, and for those people, if you are just starting out and you don't have past sales on a product to be able to show it, or on a brand and it's brand new, sell yourself in another way. If you're the sourcing guy, you can say, I've got this many followers that I can promote to, and showing your assets in terms of an email list or a social media following, or Jeff Bezos has agreed to do a post for me when I launch this product, using those other things. Or I built a business and sold it for $5 million. So selling yourself in another way to show that you're not just a beginner and you're asking the right questions, and talking about why they should believe in you. A lot of people go to Canton Fair or go on Alibaba and have those initial conversations and think they're in the driving seat and I can choose whoever I want. But when it gets down to negotiating MOQ, pricing, payment terms, exclusivity deals, all of that stuff, you're selling yourselves to them as much as they're selling themselves to you.
And I think an important part about that as well is you should also explain to the factory why you're picking them. Like, what about them and their profile and their factory looks really attractive? And if you call out those key points and explain, then out of them, because they're also getting tons of people reaching out saying, what's the MOQ? What's the price, right? And then they see your message, and it's just a really well thought out message of why they're a shortlisted factory out of the whole internet. They're part of the top 3 factories you probably want to work with, and this is who I am. Now they're going to start taking you seriously.
I like that. We'll take 2 more questions. So one right over here.
So my question, I hear that you guys are talking about, negotiating with a specific manufacturer. So my question is more geared towards Alibaba, because I know that you can, for a specific product, you can submit an inquiry and there will be so many manufacturers that reach out to you. Is there a specific way that you go about reading through those manufacturers to pick a certain one, or is it more of a gut feeling?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of ways to look at it. First thing with the RFQ functionality, I think it's really important to understand it. So I've actually seen the back end of how the RFQs work when you submit them to the factories, and you're actually ranked. People don't realize that. You're ranked as a buyer within the Alibaba platform based off of your purchase volume, your communication speed, and the amount of inquiries you're doing. So being a good communicator and a good buyer on Alibaba, you do get rewarded, and you'll get a better RFQ experience. And when you are reaching out to the factories, Alibaba.com does have like the verified functionality, and I think that's a really underappreciated tool, because what that's doing is it's verifying all of the data, documentation, photos, and videos within the profile, so that now that you have the accurate data of, are they a factor, they're a trading company, what is their size, what are their output, what are the countries that they're exporting to, what does the factory actually look like inside, what certifications do they have, you can then take all that data and then use that and then pick between the manufacturers. And that's why as well, when you are searching for manufacturers, I think switching over to the manufacturer tab instead of the product tab is really powerful if you're looking for a long-term partner, right? Because you're looking for a factory and a manufacturer to partner with. It's different if, look, I just want to make 100 sunglasses for my birthday party. then go to the product tab and just do that one-time purchase. But if this is your manufacturer, for your business, then you're gonna want to go and really filter properly.
And all of those questions are right, and asking what size they are as well, because it's particularly when you're the size is a good one, and I like to, and I'm sure you do as well, gauge on how many employees they've got. It gives you a very good reading on how big they are. I spoke to someone in here, the dartboard supplier. They've got thousands of people working in their factory. It's a big factory, right? They might be a little bit big for us if we're just starting out. So maybe we want to start and work more closely with a smaller factory. But understanding that, and on the other side of that, if you're asking the right questions, they know you're a serious buyer. They know you're not a newbie going, how much is this? And then a question mark. Like if you put together a proper email going, I'd like to know where in the country you are, how many employees you've got, and I'd like to ask all these different questions that he just went through. It shows that you're a serious buyer and will put you in good stead in terms of getting a reply. Because you've got to remember, I've got these manufacturers get hundreds of emails going, can I have 10 units? Can I have 50 units? And like my friends in China, and I'm sure your guys as well, they're just like, it drives them insane. They're like, we want partners. They want big partnerships, long-term relationships, and they don't want to be selling 10 units here, 100 units there. So you ask the right questions, you put yourself at a great advantage when you're first reaching out on Alibaba and finding them.
Really, and just the last little piece there, if you want to figure out, okay, what are the right questions to ask, because you're going into a product category you don't understand, use Appsio, use ChatGPT, and ask it, okay, pretend I'm an expert in stainless steel mugs. Teach me all the intricacies of stainless steel mugs. Like what does every component of that cup look like? What are the metal grades? Because now you can actually talk the lingo of the factory, and that's a really good tell for the factory if you're able to go talk the talk.
And also say that you're heading to China, and would it be okay to visit their factory? Even if you haven't quite got that plan, obviously don't lie, but if you haven't quite got that plan, just say, I'm thinking about coming to China. If I can I come and visit the factory? Again, just shows you're a serious buyer. And for anybody who is working in China and starting like I would go to China and I would visit the factory. Because you'd mitigate a lot of mistakes and speed up the production timeline.
And two more things to that. To go to China to get the visa, it's about $350. I just did it in May. It's good for 10 years, multi-entry. So that's the kind of visa that you want to get.
One of the best questions that I've been asking in the last 5 years is, are all the components, of course, I make watches, there's multiple components in a watch. Are all the components made in your factory, or are you also using other factories?
So ask if they have subcontracting. And do you want to work with somebody that is dependent on other factories, or do you want them to own their own factories? It kind of depends on the product. So I'm going to not ignore this side. This is who has a question right here. This will be our last question.
Okay, so assuming you can't go to China for some reason, or like you missed this year's Canton Fair, how does negotiation differ in person versus online?
I would definitely get on a video call, because when you're negotiating, you can see the reaction and stuff. I always ask them more than what I think, because in China, I always joke that the national sport is negotiation. Like if you don't negotiate, they're disappointed. You go to a factory and go, yes, I'll pay that price. They're like, well, what a waste of time. Like, what's going on here? They want to do it. It's fun, right? So don't be scared to ask for stuff, because they can only say no and they will come back and forward. But it's always good to do it face to face, and you want to do it with the boss. So if you try and do it with your sales rep, they're going to say no, and you say, I asked my boss, but sometimes they don't ask the boss, so they're not going to piss him off, right? So they're like, make sure that you get the boss on a Zoom call and do it that way.
Yeah, and I think it's about, you can build relationships also not in person. And the way I like to do it, everyone has different strategies. I like to pretend like they're like my best mate, and I'm going to go and send them videos of me at the bar with my friends. I'm going to send them pictures of me watching a UFC fight. Like, at the end of the day, like they kind of like the cool foreign friend, and if you're able to break over that barrier and build that personal relationship with them and just send pictures back and forth, then, maybe they're going to lose the account, they're not just losing the account, they're losing their buddy. And I think that's a really powerful way to build a relationship.
I think I was about 10 years into my business before I actually visited China. So it is doable, and the relationships I have with my early suppliers, I still have today. So it's definitely something that does take a lot of work, which I think we all agree on, that it's building that relationship. It's not just trying to get the lowest MOQ or the lowest price point or, whatever the negotiation is, but darn it, that does make it a lot easier, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
Go to China. No, so just if you do go, if you are in this business, you should absolutely go to China. You should understand the production line. You should build that relationship, because the word for relationship in Chinese is guanxi. And for anybody who speaks Mandarin, I'm sorry I butchered the pronunciation there, but it means relationship, and it's very, very important to them and their culture. But it's important to me as well, because let's say I want to start a business with someone and go into partnership with somebody in Australia. Would I send $100,000 to that person having never met them and shook their hand and looked in their eyes? I wouldn't do that, but there's a lot of us out here sending $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever it might be halfway across the world with someone they've never met, and they've never seen their factory and never seen their team and never seen how their product's made. So it boggles me that it is your partner, as Isaac says, and you need to go there and build the relationship. And if you do go to China, it will pay for the trip if you're thinking about saving the money, because I know cash flow when you're launching is very tight, and you need to put that into marketing, but it always pays for itself. Your trip will always pay for itself with the results that you get.
And Lyden, do you host a trip to China?
I do. So if you want to come to China with me and forget all that and just let me do it for you, ChinaMagicTrip.com.
And Isaac, do you have any final thoughts?
Just have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. Make good relationships with your suppliers. Enjoy China, and have a blast with business.
Thank you very much, Isaac, Lyden. We'll be outside the hall here. If you guys have any further questions, it's been our pleasure. And enjoy Alibaba.com and CoCreate.
Yeah, if anybody didn't get their question answered, we take payment in beer.
Thank you.